follow up the overview video I did about the actual Grizzly lathe itself, I figured I'd go over a few more minutes on some of the tooling that I've gotten for the lathe, as well as some of the other useful accessories I've found, just for kind of setting up my rudimentary garage machine shop. So this is just some of the little things that I've found really helpful. First off, these blue and lighter blue, these are Braised Carbide bits, and what it is just some mild steel or whatever. Bring it up close here, and that's Carbide right there, that ground spot with it's just brazed on, and so you get that very, very, very hard edge. But the problem is once it gets chipped, dinged, wore out, whatever happens to it, this whole thing's trash. And these were very inexpensive. These Carbide Braised bits. I think it was a set of 16 of them for like $11 when I purchased the lathe from Grizzly. So that's who makes those. Everyone's got them. All the cheap manufacturers. The other thing I have are these. These are high-speed steel tool blanks. This is a ground and hardened material that's really flexible. You can grind on it. It works pretty well, and then it keeps a really good edge when you do work it. So this one is unmodified, whereas this one I've ground a general turning point on, and it's worked. This has actually worked really well for me. I bought this probably about a month before I even got the lathe just to practice on, and it's really not let me down as far as how good it is at cutting. I've been getting these blanks from Harbor Freight really cheap, or what I consider to be pretty cheap as far as somewhere I can just go drive and pick them up. So you get in the box of blanks for I believe $4.50. You get 1/4 inch square, 3/16 inch square, 1/8 inch square, round, and this is 1/4 inch I believe, and then you also get a 1/2 inch by 3/16 cutoff blank. So you get five blanks for a $4.50. That's less than $1 per blank, which, I mean, that's competing with internet prices at this point. And these high-speed blanks are really good for lots of things. I've turned one of these round bits into this kind of a I need to work on it better, but it's what I'm trying, my attempt at a boring bar, or an internal turning. And then I've used one of these 16th inch bits. I cut it off with an abrasive wheel, put it in a piece of drill rod that I turned down, drilled a cross hole, and then drilled and threaded an end hole. And you can see that is an internal threading bit. And that's the 1/8 inch high-speed steel that I've ground to a 60-degree point. So you get a lot of with these grind your own high-speed steel bits, you get a lot of versatility in what you can make with them. I showed you the the parting bit before, the 1/2 inch by 1/16 inch, and this is the tool holder that is required for it. And I ordered this tool holder along with the chuck and the live center. I'm sorry, not the live center, but along with the chuck, I got this from Mini Machine, or Little Machine Shop, and it actually holds rigidity just fine. If you get the lathe adjusted well, make sure your gibs are set, make sure your backlash is taken out, and make sure everything is tight, you can part reasonably well with this lathe. I've done it with 1 inch aluminum and 1 inch stainless, 304 stainless. And if you go slow, keep it rigid, and keep your feed pretty even, I mean, I've heard people complain about how this lathe won't do it, but in my experience, that's not true. This bit, the only thing I've really done to it to dress it up was I went along the front face and right here along the top face, and I ground a little bit of a relief angle, just a very large radius. I used the grinding wheel just to give it a little bit of a relief angle. I'm not sure if you can really see it. And then I dressed up the cutting edge with a stone. And it cuts pretty well. I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it, but it seems to work okay, especially on thinner materials. It just gulps right through. These are two, I don't want to say novelty tools, but something I'm probably not going to use a ton of, but they're very neat nonetheless. They're knurling tools. This shank here fits in the tool post, and then once you've adjusted it on center, this is a little forgiving because of the swivel here, but these wheels rotate with the workpiece and impress a knurl. That does a crosshatch knurl like you'd see on a flashlight, or a knob or a thumb screw, something like that. And then this is just a straightened knurl. As you can see, there's just those straight lines going across. And this one I haven't actually used this one yet. I've played a little bit with this one, and it's neat. I got a very mild crosshatch there on just a piece of mild steel. This one I presume that you need to have perfectly on center to get a nice, like a dial type of knurl on that. So I have a couple projects in mind to play with those, and I thought they would be a good tool in there. The ones like this aren't too expensive. So some other tooling that I have that'll come in handy that's not necessarily specifically for lathes. So these are center drills, and this is, I believe, a quarter or 5/16 inch shank. But you see the shank is very thick, and it angles down, tapers off to a finer point. So these are for making a very accurate hole. And on the lathe, this thickness means that it won't try to wander and get off center. And then this 60-degree angle on the shoulder here, if you drill it just about half or 2/3 the way up, you'll now have a perfectly shaped hole for a tailstock center. So it's multi-use there, and this is a set of them I got from Grizzly, and it ranges all the way down from this teeny tiny, I'm presuming that's 1/8 of an inch, up to the bigger one. So these are widely used across the machine shop and for other tasks. You see them on drill presses and mills, things of that nature, but they are very handy on the lathe. For thread cutting on the lathe, which is kind of a big operation, I like using this. This is a thread gauge. It's made by Brown & Sharp, but there's a number of them imported and stuff. It's got a bunch of useful little references on it. These are all 60-degree bevels, or 60-degree angles for measuring if your tool is properly ground, and then you can make sure that it's perfectly perpendicular to the work by aligning it that way, and then you can actually check your actual threads, things of that nature. So it's really handy. It's also got some references stamped on it, different thread depths and these gauges, these verniers of what a thread of that pitch should look like. So it's pretty handy. I like it for threading, no matter if you're doing single point threading or even if you are just using a tap or die. And especially handy is this set of thread gauges. This will measure thread pitches from, I believe, 4 threads per inch to 42 threads per inch. Pretty big difference. So these are basically, if you've never handled them before, each one of these fold-out pieces is just a different stamping with different threads per inch on it. Those little sawtooths you line up with the side of a bolt, thread, anything. So there's your 4. That's a big old thread. Up to that's a 12. And that'll work on any size diameter of your bolt or threaded item. So it's really good for figuring out thread sizes and pitches and things like that, and making sure that your settings are right when you are starting a thread on the machine. It's even got a full set of metric threads. Very handy. The last little handy upgrade or part that I got for this lathe, this is a light from IKEA. It plugs into the wall. It's got a 110-volt outlet, and it's an LED lamp. It's called the Jansjo. Those IKEA names are always hilarious to me to pronounce because I never do it right. So I'm sorry for our Swedish friends, or I'm sorry for that to our Swedish friends. But it's got a really long, I think this is like 14 inches or 16 inches, the whole flexible, one of those metal flexible arms here, and it's got a weighted base. It screws to this base, and means I can make a different mount for it, which I will probably do. But it's very handy. I actually keep it right behind the lathe, and you probably see it in other shots where I can point this right at the workpiece or at the tool, wherever I like, and it's pretty handy. It's a little squirmy, but you can get it to stay in place nicely. And it's like $10. $10. So that's really nice. That's handy.